Tonight's episode is sponsored by our good friends at Vape and Ape, where they want to evolve the way you experience cannabis.
With state-of-the-art hardware and 100% cannabis-derived formulations, these high terpene extract disposables will get you where you need to go.
And make sure you check out this summer's limited edition strain, Tropicana Cookies and Gelato Dream.
And also for you rosin lovers, Vape and Ape does a limited drop of hash rosin disposables each month.
And right now, they are running a collab with Peachy's Purple Milk.
So find yourself a retailer at www.vapeandape.com/store-locator.
And check out their Instagram page at vapin__ape.
Welcome, fellow lushes. Come on in, pull up a bar stool, and enjoy some cocktails with Dimples and the Beard.
Are you ready?
Ready, go. Welcome back to another episode of Cocktails with Dimples, the Beard. Possibly my favorite episode ever because this guy has a dating coach. He went on a date. I got to see it, and now we get to blast him with his dating coach. Her name is Sarah Jeavons.
She's coming on to discuss it all. Let's open that tavern real quick. Woo! And before we get going, because she is on, and I can't wait to hear how much I nailed it with the ladies. Subscribe, and then you can talk and share how great I am, and then you share with your lady friends. We can date through here. DM me. Let's go.
Yeah, you date with virtual, so.
Yeah, I got it. Well, I got this. So we better not keep a pretty lady waiting, even though she's worth waiting for.
You said that on your date. So without further ado, his dating coach, Sarah Jeavons. Awesome. So welcome back to the podcast. Dimples dating coach, Sarah
Thank you very
Jeavons.
much.
Last time we talked with you, we talked about getting this guy some coaching from the expert, and that's been done. He's had his virtual date. I've seen it. Thank you so much. I've watched it no less than half a dozen times, and we're here to talk all about it. So thank you for coming back.
Yes. So I am excited to just hear what you have to say about my date. And in the intern, learn and give me advice. So
amazing. Well, thanks for having me back.
Don't hold back.
Okay, I won't hold back, and I didn't hold back when I did your date debrief just the other day. I thought you did really well, Dimples, and I say that in the recording. It is a nerve-wracking exercise to do, to be set up on a blind date with someone you've never met, a complete stranger, and then spend 15 minutes with them, aiming to build some romantic interest in that amount of time. I mean, it's no easy feat. So I feel like your courage that was displayed on this date was, inspiring for me. I was like, hey, I didn't realize that he was going to come in this strong. So okay. I have to acknowledge you for your efforts. Well done.
Well, thank you. There we go. Now, would you say I held that through the whole date?
You start with the flowers and then you...
Or...
Call it a feedback sandwich.
Let's go with the dirt.
I think you made me laugh very hard. I think it was about a minute and a half into the date, and you pulled out a line. It was something like, we like to go hunting in Wisconsin, but I don't like to hunt. I like to hunt women. And I'll never forget that line. That's what you said.
Hunt the ladies. I have it written right here. Hunt the ladies. You called it the first atomic bomb of the date.
And I'm not the normal get out and hunt. We're little big hunting. We're big into hunting.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not into hunting. The only thing I like to hunt is little ladies, if you know what I mean.
Oh wow, it rocked me. I was like, what? And on the date as well, Dimple's date was shocked. She was like, what did you say? And she said that a couple of times just to make sure that those words came out of his mouth. So it was a really hilarious moment straight out of the gates.
But that, and you talk about this in the debriefing, that plays as long as it played.
Not creepy.
He played it playfully, not. There was no obvious. He obviously didn't mean what he said. It was
Yeah, so it's all about the intention behind it. And to be honest, most guys, that would throw them off. And I don't know many men that would get away with saying, I like to hunt women on a first date, but Dimples got away with it because of the playful humor. And that's something that I noticed in his personality. It comes through. It's very on display, if that makes sense. Like, as you would know, if you listen to Dimples on the podcast, he's got a great sense of humor, like you both do. And so that really allows you to get away with a lot more than a guy who doesn't have that same level of humor. He will not get away with saying that. So I think that served you well on this date.
But it's funny because we talk about like their culture differences, right? And part of my thing that I had, like, there was some awkward moments because of that. But this, like, we talk about, you talk about hunting the ladies. The thing of it is when it's hunting season in Wisconsin around us, the guys that don't hunt, it's a common expression that we're hunting the two-legged deer. You know what I mean? Like, that's common. So when he said that, that's like a common thing said. So like in Wisconsin, the girls just get, that line is going to make much more sense. Phoebe was completely
lost in translation. Australians speak a different kind of English,
Yeah, like patching, which we have to talk about later.
So many moments. How did it feel for you? You've obviously just been through this experience. What did it feel like showing up to a date where you didn't know what to expect or who this woman was going to be? Were you nervous or weren't you? I was trying to work that out.
I wasn't nervous going in. I was like, let's just have some fun and just go with it. And I'm not gonna lie, halfway through, I got a little nervous. So and I can't tell you why, but I was not nervous going in, but then it turned to because it didn't want to run out of things to talk about. So I think I kept pushing. So
yeah, I noticed that, and it was interesting. I think your humor, like a lot of guys can relate to this, it probably serves you really well to a certain level, and then maybe you don't quite know how to transition from that to keep it going in the right kind of way. Like, you almost switched gears into podcast mode. That's what it felt like. It was like, okay, what's the next question I can ask her and keep this going, rather than how we created that sexual tension later on in the date. So I definitely noticed that, but would love to hear your thoughts, guys.
I wrote the same thing down about the podcast. I felt like he did get into, but it is, I notice it myself from doing these so much. When I'm talking to people in just in general now, I find myself going into that cadence in that flow. So I
saw it when I watched it back. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a comfort zone, right? It's like you're so used to doing it almost on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis that it makes total sense that it finds its way into your dates. But it's that kind of version of you doesn't stimulate the right kind of juices that we want to be flowing on the date. And I've seen it with other guys because I've got other clients that also have their own podcasts, and it hinders them because now there's this interview wall going up where you're like, okay, if this was somebody on my show, this is my comfort blanket, I'll ask her this question and that question. So I think that allowed you to ask more intimate topics. Like, I think you asked 5 or 6 questions about her dating preferences and whether she's dated older men or what cultures, or and so you kind of got stuck into that zone, which again, I like that you asked intimate topics, but it was masked. And you weren't being, I think, the vulnerable version of Dimples that I really wanted to see.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I can learn. I did. And there was probably, looking back, a little, not selfishness, but asking for myself about, what I kept referring about to steering her back to me, the older guy, me, the this and that. So, yeah, I saw that after,
Yeah,
right
which
or
I
wrong.
think it almost, and the way I said it in the debrief, it was like you were sort of like playing yourself out of the chances with her. It was kind of like, why do you keep bringing it back to that? It's like you were trying to qualify yourself to be on her level, to be someone that she would consider. And I said in the debrief, I was like, you don't need to do that, Dimples. Like, you have the value, but if you keep asking questions to solidify her interest in you, that to me as a coach looking at it goes, well, he doesn't believe that he's on that level with her.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to ask qualifying questions. So that's how I took it after, noticing there was 3 or 4 extra questions you probably didn't need to ask. Like, you'd already got it. She's dated older guys. She bases her attraction off of the feeling she gets with you. That should be enough for you to be like, yeah, awesome. I'll lead this direction now instead of having to come back to that topic.
Okay, so right there. So if I say I'm gonna at that point eliminate those additional 3 questions, what would have been a good approach to go into?
So I say this in the debrief,
Avenue.
and it's about becoming very present and being more collaborative together. And you did a fantastic example of that when you spoke about, so are you going to come to see me or am I going to come to see you in Australia? And then on top of that, you created a future-paced story, which was, I'll only come to Australia if we go surfing together.
For our next date, am I flying there or are you going to fly here? Just want to get that out of the way.
I think you should come here and check out the beaches because the beaches here are so beautiful.
Yeah, there you go. I need to do that. If I do, would you try surfing again?
I'll give it a go. If you're going to give it a go, I'd give it a go.
And I thought that was a fantastic way to bring it into the now with her. And it makes her think about going on a future date with you. And so women, when our imaginations are stimulated or our emotions are, it's really helpful for us to build that attraction and to think about, okay, like, so he would come here and we would go surfing and I wouldn't normally go, but I'm going to go with him because he suggested it. So that was a really great example of creating your own unique experience with her instead of talking about general topics or past experiences. So I would say a great direction would have been to create more of that, to lean more into the now with her, maybe even look at, her own bedroom that she was sitting in, right? Bring it to the space, bring it to the now, and then let those silences that I know were a bit awkward for you guys on that date, let them actually be intentional moments of connection. That would have been really juicy. So instead of letting that kind of go, oh shit, what should I say next? You actually let yourself lean in to the silences with her, and that would have increased the tension, and it would have been really cool to see what would happen in that space rather than, okay, shit, what's the next question?
And that too, it will be okay. Silence. I gotta fill it quick. So, and that's where
That's a very natural response, though.
yeah, fill it.
Even when you're not, I mean, even just in conversation with friends and whatever, it's you need to be comfortable with somebody to really be able to stand the silence. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and silence is one of the most, I think, amazing forms of flirting. You're silent and you're both like, I wonder what this other person is thinking. And for most people, it is uncomfortable. But if you can find comfort in that discomfort, you'll unlock very deep connection.
Yeah.
That's what happens with
in
dating.
person and over Zoom. That was the other thing. Not anytime I've been talking with a lady, it's usually in person. So it's different. And I think it maybe I'm wrong, but in person, I could let those silences go a little more. Because you're looking down at your drink or looking up and stuff. But there you're like, are you looking at me? I was like, are you looking at me? I'm kind of looking at you. And so, yeah, it was a little different for me because I wasn't used to it.
But silence still would have beat asking, what's your favorite thing to do at the beach?
Is that where you'd like to spend a lot of your time, is on the beach?
I do love the beach. I'm like about 1 or 2 minutes from the beach. So yeah, it's nice to live by the coast. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do at what's your favorite thing to do at the beach? Okay.
I don't know if so last night, before we record, I started watching Just the Date. And that was the first thing that stood out to me. And
he didn't let it go.
Before we started the podcast, I even put it on our stories and just put the question, what's your favorite thing to do at the beach in our stories? and then you pointed it out and I felt so validated because I was like, if she just blows that question off, I'm going to feel like an ass. But
no, you brought it up. You both hit on it. And I'm like, oh.
We have to tell the audience, like, everything we're saying is coming from a place of love. And I said that in the breakdown, but you brought out some of the best one-liners I've ever seen doing debriefs of these dates over the years. I'm like, where your brain goes somewhere? Like, you've just asked, so you like the beach? And the follow-up logical next question is, what's your favorite thing to do at the beach? Oh, it's like, and you know what? Your date, she handled that very smoothly. She actually gave you a fantastic answer. She's like, I like, strolling down, and it was a very deep answer to quite a funny question, in my opinion.
Most women would have been, "What do you think, genius?"
I was hoping she would say that, but
I want to talk about the controversy in the in the date, because at one there was a little because we couldn't tell from the recording. Phoebe asked, or he asked a question about red flags, and Phoebe said, good question. And I think in your debriefing you said, did you say not a good
question?
Look, I feel like asking about red flags at the moment that it was asked. So when I look at a virtual date, and any date, every single date we ever go on, there is a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end.
Yes.
And the timing of when this question was brought into play was towards the latter end. It was like 14 minutes. So I just think bringing that topic of red flags up at that point is not the best use of your time at that stage. That's where my thinking was, because you'd already asked 3 questions to do with dating. So another question asking about red flags is sort of beating a dead horse, to be quite frank. It's just like, we've covered this topic a lot and we're still digging deeper into it, rather than like, you both didn't even know what you did as a job. And that's not always a bad thing to be, what do you do? I don't even know what you do. That's quite natural to happen on dates, but it's just the timing of that question. And again, the way you both spoke about it on the date was actually very insightful. Both of you learned a lot about each other with that exchange, but I just think for me, it was the timing and the way it came about. I think it would have been really cool to see a different direction at that stage towards the end of the day.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I wasn't in my head, timing wise, like I got to wrap things up and it's going to end. So that was not in my brain. It was just, again, I think at that point, as we pointed out, is in the podcast mode of, I could have been, I'm going to get some good answers up when I bring up a subject like red flags. Like she's going to tell me maybe a funny story of somebody she was on a date with that triggered something. That was my head, and I probably shouldn't have gone that way. Yeah.
So again, that's awesome that you're going to find, certain things out about her past experiences. How awesome. But and a lot of guys, that's one thing that they learn early on when they start this training. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about wrapping things up.
Right.
Now, you can be going on your dates always thinking about the end, but if you want to be a great leader, and most of the time the guy is going to lead the date, that's how it is. It is important to think about, where are you going after this date? What do you have on tomorrow? Like, if you have hours and hours and hours and hours and you've got nothing else going on in your life, that tells her something. And if you also can say, hey, this was amazing, like, I've got to get back, or I've got stuff on, that tells me something about you. So what do you want to tell this woman about who you are and the kind of guy that you are and the way that you lead your dates? And so when you learn that the ending to a date is really important, you don't have to create the perfect end to every date and make it the same. It's just respecting each other's time goes a long way, because when you leave it on what I refer to as this emotional high, oh, we had such a great time, I really want to see Dimples again. Now, when I leave that date, I'm like, damn, like this guy's got things going on in his life, places to be, people to see, and I want to see him again. I want to be in that. So that's what I mean by thinking about the end of the date. And exceptions, right? You might go on a date and hours with them, but that's where my headspace is at.
Gotcha. So is that what Phoebe said? She wants to see me again? Is there anything you want to tell me that she...
Do you know what? You gotta.
Am I flying over there? Do I need to buy a plane ticket?
I think you should come over.
He already has. He's already bought the plane ticket. He's.
You're hopping on the plane tonight, right? She actually gave you a glowing review. Phoebe, she said some really lovely things about you, and I said, this can't be right. I need to go in here and have a look at what's really going on. But it was all very positive what she said. She enjoyed your sense of humor, which I knew was always going to be the case. You do. That is probably one of your strengths, is a great sense of humor. But I also believe that the attraction piece wasn't as high as it could have been. I think there was comfort, there was fun, there was humor. But if we're looking at it from an angle of how do you build that romantic interest and attraction, there's definitely room to improve that.
He got friend zoned.
Yeah.
I could feel it. There was a moment. like it was, and then it just flattened, and I was, oh, there's friend zone. I've been there. I know where friend zone is. I
Yeah,
felt
I
that.
get you.
When did that happen for you? When you watched the date, when was that moment for you?
When I got into the more podcast quizzitive point of it. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, they right around. I mean, she said good question to the red flag question, but right in that area is where I kind of started to feel like, yep. The main critique I had was I thought,
let me hear it.
He was not confident enough, like you said, and he brought up the so-called negative qualities, being old, being, my job not boring, like too much. You were so,
but yeah, the whole
self-deprecating
a little bit, but for humor, which she had mentioned that she liked that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, exactly. There's a fine line. I think this comes down to, I hope you don't mind me saying it, there's a level of insecurity within you that came bubbled to the surface, right?
Sure.
It's like that's how it manifested. And it's an easy way out. Like, we are so smart. Humans are so smart, right? Even though, let's say the perfect scenario would be she's totally head over heels, the date goes incredibly well. Like, yes, you're going to meet up with each other and live happily ever after. Sometimes the insecurity within us will self-sabotage and find a way out before we even get to the success. So I think that was how it manifested on this date.
100%. Yep.
Did a really great job. Okay. So I don't like to beat you down too much, because that's the only
I do.
but yeah, you did get friend zone, and I agree with you, through your observation. When someone says, that's a great question, we are in podcast territory there.
True.
If you guys ask me a question, I'll take a moment. Great question, guys. I am not in my sexy feminine at that moment. I am in masculine, logical Sarah mode, and I'm going to give you an answer to the question, which is exactly what we saw happen in that date. That doesn't get the juices flowing, right? That's just two adults having a serious conversation about their past experiences, which is fantastic. But we'd already had so much of that on this date. We wanted some of that cheekiness, and we wanted some of the other stuff that, was quite feminine and playful. So I noticed that you guys avoided that. When it happened, there was 3 or 4 moments when you did start to flirt. And talk us through what you felt, because when you felt that you paid a compliment or said something, there was this moment, and then you quickly put a question in place. So what were you feeling? Is that when the nerves started, or what was going on for you?
Well, I think it goes back to that thing where, okay, so yep, I did, and I knew that a few moments play something playful and flirty or whatever you want to call it out there. She chuckled, and then it was like, you know what I mean? We're both chuckling, and then, all right, now I gotta say something so we don't just go ha 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 ha, ha, and then it's silent again. So there's where I diverted. That was going on in my head. I need to fill that before it gets to that awkward moment.
Yeah.
That was what was going in my head. Yeah. Instead of, I guess I could have continued to play. Yeah. I didn't want to make the whole thing flirty, playful, I guess. And maybe I should have. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. You don't want your dates to be all of that the whole time. It would be exhausting if the whole day was flirting back and forth, and there was no serious conversation. I mean, you're on a date to find out about this person and make a well-informed decision about whether you want to see them again. And then equally, you want to know, okay, I can have fun with this guy, and I can be flirty, and I can, express that side of myself and feel like he can meet me there too. So it is about finding a balance. And for your first virtual date, I think you did a really great job, but we're just here to tear it to shreds to see what you can do better. And that's, I think, what we're doing very well.
Well, I want you to know, because
I got a whole thing, improvement on my notes on the sideline, improvement.
I get to edit this whole thing. So every time you say you did a really great job, it's going to be edited with you did a really poor job.
Or so take it out completely.
So I'm going to need you to be quiet. I'm going to need you to say the word poor like 3 or 4 times, just so I get
poor. You did a poor job. You did a crap job.
Don't help him out.
You're probably the worst date that I've ever seen, Dimples.
Gave him so much fuel. So much fuel.
You talked through most of it. So
and he's got all of the recording to all of that content. He's gonna little parts to that as well. You signed up for this. I mean, I don't know if you're for but or you voluntarily put your hand up.
This episode may take a hot minute to get out. It's going to be a big editing job.
It'll be very entertaining for the audience.
It will, and
Might have to
you're right.
outsource
What you
this.
said, I signed up for this, and I appreciate all your critique back. I really do, because all I can do is improve. But as I said in the beginning, I'm going to take this opportunity to continue to go with it, and hopefully I can learn to improve.
Yeah.
And I am going to jump into the dating world. I have
Did
to.
everyone hear that?
Everyone hear that? You can hit me DM. We can, talk.
Well, you know what the next lesson is?
No, I don't.
In the world of modern dating, what's one of the most important things to have set up and make sure that it's marketed in the best way possible?
That's and I think I hit on that when we talked, is the best apps, the best dating apps to get on, which I have no idea or where to even begin.
You are going to inspire so many people, Dimples, by getting a Instagram, a dating app profile photo shoot. That is the next step in the funnel for you.
I'll do it.
Photo shoot? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not just any photo shoot. We don't want a well-polished photo shoot. We want a candid photo shoot. We want a photo shoot that really captures the essence of who Dimples is. And that's what we showcase on those dating apps to get the results.
I already have some really great pictures.
Oh, send it through.
I can certainly help with that.
Oh, dang.
They have to be closed. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no, they are.
They're you do. Yeah, you've got some photos.
Well, this might be an easy endeavor then. It won't take long.
Photos that we don't want out in the world.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get into that. I will get into that, and I to prove him wrong for nothing else that I can do it. But I've in my life, and we talked about it a little bit in our little thing, but I've never done the dating app thing, but it's always been in person, and I just, not that I would look for it, but opportunities arise, and I just go. So
They still can.
And they still can. You're right. I'm not going to give that up for sure. But the conversation thing, and maybe I guess what I think of, and I'm rambling on, but
You are.
is the old
Kinda like on the
we keep
date.
talk about dating podcast mode, right? What was I doing prior to ever having the podcast? That's what I'm trying to think back, and I don't know that I can think of it because I'm old, and there it is again. But you know what I mean? I wasn't getting into the podcast mode 10 years ago when I was out in the dating world. So
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did back then.
You're just going to have to be aware of it, because now that's sort of like, as I would say, a default setting for you. It's a comfort zone, and it's not always going to be helpful on your dates. So it's just something to be aware of when you go into the dating scenes, whether you're meeting people out in the world, the old school way, as you put it on the date, or you're meeting people using apps. And I think it's going to be exciting for you to explore both avenues.
So when I'm in a bar talking to someone or a lady, I shouldn't go, and what's your answer to this? And
well, that's got some comedy to it, the way you're doing it. So as I said as well with the debrief, it's not about what you're saying, it's about how you're saying it. And so if you made it a very comedic experience, that's actually bringing you into the moment together. But if you ask in the way that you were asking on this date that we just watched, that's not the angle you want to go, because it's going to change the whole energy. It's going to be a very friendly interaction. It won't get the fireworks going, which is what we're looking for.
In a 20-minute date like that, 15-minute, 20-minute date like that, how are you looking for what, like, the ebb and flow to go? Like, because you do want some of those moments of lightness, but you only have like 20 minutes. So if you're trying to get deep at all, how deep do you try and get? Because yeah, I know I can't talk without my hands. What can I say? But
I like the articulation about that. The ebbs, the flows. Look, it's an art form, and you never are looking for the perfect ebbs and flows. It's just not going to happen. We're human. We are perfectly imperfect. Every date is going to have its own uniqueness, its own stumbles, its own hiccups, its own awkwardness. And it's all about how we respond and handle those moments. So again, I'm going to positively mention Dimples' performance because he actually did that quite well. He had moments where he would compliment and be a little cheeky with the way he was going with the conversation. Then he'd pull that back. And yes, he would fire the interview question, but it would get us answers that were a little deeper. They had conversations that were far deeper than just teasing each other and being playful. So as long as you have a little bit of both, you're totally fine. You don't need to be like, okay, 2 minutes we've been talking about X. I need to definitely change the topic now.
Right.
It's more of this intuitive feeling that when you're comfortable and you're present, you can feel it. Like I bet you guys have been in a situation, whether it's on the podcast or out and about at a social gathering, that you've been stuck in a conversation and you can just feel that there is a lull and you're bored. You're both bored, right? You follow, like, read those signals, and that's when you know when to change or to ebb and to flow into different spaces.
Okay.
We've been in podcasts and we can feel each other out when we do it. It was like, okay, we just kind of ask the same question, but in a different way. We ran out of questions. We need to move on or end this thing. So I get what you're saying. Yes, we've been there.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But I feel if I ever have done that with a lady, it's because I'm like, all right, I'm out of things to say, but I don't want to leave because I still want to bang her. So, I mean, there's that where I was a joke again, but I don't want the conversation to end because I just enjoy being with her.
Yeah. Yep.
We need to steal the word cheeky, by the way.
Cheeky?
Cheeky is a great word that we don't use in the States very often.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
I like the word.
Yeah, it's a great word. Yeah.
So cheeky is kind of fun and playful, but okay.
Yeah.
I don't think of anything sexual to it about it.
You've got like a cheeky smile, like you're being cheeky, like that. It's that feeling. Yeah. I feel like women probably use the word cheeky more than guys, but yeah.
Not anymore.
Start saying it and start saying pash. I think both of those words will be great to hear in the American language.
Yes. So that
threw me. That threw me. So again, I just had to stop and say, well, I didn't understand that. Pasher.
Pash. I wonder if the audience knows what pashing means.
Well, they do. Well, they will now, but no, you need to explain it. What is pashing?
I liked the way that your date actually explained it. Do you remember how she explained it to you, Dimples?
I mean, I think like pashing on somewhere in public is a bit too much, maybe. Like
Passing.
Pash. Is that like an Australian thing? Kissing lots of tongue. Yeah.
Yeah, like making out, but with tongue a little more than just a peck. It was more of a passionate kiss, but it could get a little aggressive. Tongue and stuff. Yeah.
There you go. He learned something on this date. That's what dating's all about, right?
I did.
And that's very much it, right? Pashing. And Australians like to make everything shortened and slang. So passionate kiss, pashing. It's a pretty straightforward understand. Like once you know it, you're like, oh, okay. And it's, to be honest, a lot of younger adults use that word pash, right? So they were talking about red flags. And in this part of the date, it was like, they were talking about public displays of affection and whether she was comfortable with it. And she was saying that was a bit of a boundary. Like you don't want to be overly passionately kissing in front of people when you're out and about.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go to the bar and ask girls to pash.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll work here.
Well, it will. That's I guess an American lady would be like, what? They're like, don't you know what pashing means?
Yeah. I think you can use it.
Yeah, you could say, I learned it the other day. I was on a date with an Australian. I had no idea what she meant by pashing. Do you know what that means? It's a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings up a good point. So to bring up to a girl that I'm talking to, you just said it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll use it to my advantage. I just learned it because I was on a date. Back to the whole thing, like he's got things to do. So is that a good thing to talk to a girl about? Is like I'm on multiple dates or not?
Yeah, so shows that there's other women that are interested in you. They find you attractive. You are a guy that is going on dates. Like I think there was a moment even in this date where you asked a question about whether she had dated men from different places around the world, and she listed off a couple of different, New Zealand and then Brazilian and then British and then something else. And then when the ball was passed back to you, I think you mentioned one different culture. So it was like, oh, okay, maybe he hasn't dated much, right? That's what I took from it. So when you talk about other dates, it's not in a vulgar way at all, in a very adult manner. It's like, it's normal. You're out in the dating world. It's like, I was on a date the other day and it was really interesting. Like, she brought up the word pash. Like, do you know what that means? You're saying it in a very normalized way. So for me, if I was on the date with you, I'm thinking, oh, like other women are finding him attractive, and that's a good sign. Like when women see other women around you, it's a good sign because they've qualified you. You've got social status.
Sure, but I'm going to twist it where I'm going to say, I was on a date the other day and she said she wants to pash with me. That's the way I'm going to use it going forward.
I feel like we were taught as I was coming up in the dating world, that we were taught completely different, that it was taboo to talk about the other people we were dating or our past dates and stuff like that. So it's interesting to hear that now that's something that
the
can
difference,
help.
right?
Yeah. So
yeah, well, I think it's also a good sign. Like if your date gets really weird about you talking about another date, I mean, if I was a guy, I'd be like, oh, like, is she going to be overly possessive or jealous about the fact that I'm a fully grown man and I'm dating different people. So if that's a problem for you, it is a good way to also see how she responds. So you're actually like, oh, okay, is she going to be strange about that or not? Yeah. And you have to go to these places or to share as closely to your authentic self as you can to work out whether you guys are a good match. Because if you're not someone that likes to feel caged or, can't go on other dates or can't share his experiences openly with his partner, well, that's going to be a good indicator about whether you would want to see that woman again or not. So it serves a purpose as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read the signs. I guess it's another thing. And I joke, but there was a big period where it was, you're out and I'm meeting these girls because the end result, I want to take them home tonight. You know what I mean? So I didn't care about a lot of signs because it wasn't going to go past tonight, or I didn't care. And I didn't mean that in a bad way, but I didn't recognize the signs. That's the better way to say it. Not that I didn't care, I didn't recognize them. So now that's what's different, I think, for me now, is trying to recognize those things.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out and you genuinely just want to have some fun and have a fling, your approach is going to be very different to the guy that's going out and actually looking for potentially dating and entering into a relationship with somebody. He's going to be leading the date differently. And that's why understanding how to lead dates differently, you got to understand, what do you want? What do I want from this experience? Because your date usually will follow your lead. So if your lead is fun, I want to fling, I want this to be, an amazing night that we both remember and just leave in a hot mess that will, that's great. Cool. So your leadership is going to be different on that kind of a date.
If you want to get physical.
Let's get physical.
There it is. There it is.
Bring her home and show her your DVD collection.
So
I love physical media. I know there's all the streaming service, but I'm a little old school. Yeah. If you didn't notice, I'm a little older, but I love the physical stuff. So I like physical DVDs. I like to hold them and own them. And some may say it's a problem, but that's one of my things. I guess you could just say I just like to get physical. So
yeah, I love that. Yes, you want the tangibility in your hand, right? Yeah.
I like the touch.
I'm not gonna lie. In that moment, I know it seemed like I brought it up a few times, but it was one of those lines like the hunt ladies. I want to get physical. I was waiting for a reaction from her, and then I was like, "Well, did she hear me?" So I brought it up a few times, or tried to twist around to get a laugh out of her.
I think you said I like touching things,
and then I went to touching things. So I went in the wrong direction. I don't say wrong, different direction. But I wanted that's. There was a period in there where in my brain at the time, I do remember going, "Did you hear that?" Not, but I thought it was funny, so I wanted to kind of bring it up again. and I
Yeah,
probably overplayed it.
That's the challenge there, though. I thought it was funny. I'm looking for a reaction. And
Yeah.
if you're doing it from that place, a lot of women, myself included, I'll blatantly ignore it because I know you're looking for a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
And
though
that
I
could've-
think, yeah, okay, it is kind of funny, but I can see all you want is for me to go, so I'm deliberately not going to laugh at that to see how you handle not getting what it is that you wanted as well. So it,
So I
it
missed
was
that.
it was a great moment though. I remember that part of the day and
That's-
I was laughing.
Yeah, it was a good comedic moment, but
That's
I
devious.
didn't think of the other way that yeah, she's intentionally ignoring it.
It's like you don't need that validation, like that your joke is funny. Like, where is that coming from? Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
women
yeah.
often completely ignore moments that you think, did she hear that? Like, she definitely would have heard that. Why isn't she responding to it? And if
Yes.
it throws her off, that's showing her something about you. If it doesn't, oh, okay. So these are little tests. And again, not all
Yeah.
women are aware they're doing it either, Dimples. She might have had no idea. But I know that from experience, sometimes I will be aware and I'll choose not to respond to something.
Like if somebody said about getting physical.
I mean, it's very, how would we put this?
I mean, the timing was right.
I want to say like immature kind of sense of humor, but you know, yeah, that whole DVD collection moment on the date was quite an interesting one to break down. I enjoyed it. I love your DVD collection. That was when I had my meeting with you.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, look at all of these. They're so cool. And I think even in the date, like when you explained your DVDs, that was an interesting moment as well. Like you felt like you had to justify why you had so many instead of just being like, I love DVDs and then continuing on. That was a really interesting exchange.
Yeah, you had mentioned that in your debriefing, you know, that I don't have to justify it or I don't have to explain it. I just got to own it.
Yeah.
It was fun for me though, because I knew at that moment he was thinking about me when he said, some people think I have a problem. I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yep.
So even on his big date, he was thinking about me.
Isn't that sweet? You guys are very connected in that way.
Well, it was fun. It's fun to watch from somebody who knows him so well, to be able, like, some of the moments I could feel what was, you know, like I knew what was going on in his head. And like, people, oh, you wanted to say this, but you backed out of saying this. And
that happened too. There were moments that I did do that. I backed out.
Okay, I got to know. What's one example of that?
Oh.
What did you think that Dimples wanted to say?
Okay.
And then let's hear what he was thinking and see if it's the same.
oh yeah, no. When he's talking about the beautiful people, beautiful, but you can be beautiful on the outside or something too. And sometimes I'll be with a beautiful woman and I'll leave, you know, after a couple hours, I know it's not right. And what he wanted to say is sometimes she's not so good looking, but I just get along with her. But he didn't, he pulled back.
Dimples, is that true? Is that accurate?
Yes.
You know him well. You know him well.
And you could see me stumble or pause or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's you have that moment where your brain just glitches and you stop yourself. Like, don't do that. Don't go there. But what if you did go there? That would be my question. What happens if you do go there? Because I think your personality, you could probably say that in a way that wouldn't ruin the moment, and it would actually show a raw side to you for that woman.
Yeah, I mean, if your style of humor is darker humor,
sure,
and they look at you like you're, you know, a terrible human being for uttering that, you kind of get a feel, you know, you get a tell out of that, right? So
yeah, and maybe she's also had moments where she's hung around, even though she probably shouldn't or wouldn't usually.
Oh, I'm sure 100%, but it was the whole.
She's never dated an ugly guy. There's no chance.
They want to come out shallow.
Yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So
I know.
I'm 100%.
I'm being the creep that he wouldn't have been on the date. I'm saying what needs to be said.
So there's that, I mean, there's the whole, yep, I want to be myself 100%. This is me, take me for what I am 100%. But, there are points, again, that moment where you step back and you're like, all right, it's still a first date, first impression. So willingly or intentionally, you do, human nature, I did it. I held back and stuff, and I know there were a couple other moments, but I couldn't place it right now. I mean,
I like the way you dropped the kids. I've got kids moment. That was it was like a boom. It's like you've done that before, and I wanted to ask you on the podcast: is that something that you come across quite frequently with your dating experiences? You're like, we better cross this bridge. By the way, I've got kids. Like the way you just wanted to get it out, it was really interesting.
Well, early on, because I was a single dad you got to remember, my son's 35. So back in the day, and I did it because if it bothered you, I didn't want to waste any more time. So I did bring it up a lot. And I remember there was a time where I switched. I was in spring break in Florida I was talking to a girl, and the guy I was with came up because he wanted to hit on her, but I talked to her first, and he came up like, I'm going to kill it for him. I'm going to ruin it for him and say, oh, something about your kid back home, because my son was young at the time. And so he brought it up like she was going to walk away from me. Right. And I thought, no, I'm going to embrace it. And I said, of course, I just haven't got to it yet. And ever since that moment, I'm like, I'm going to bring it up before anyone else can. And to be fact, she came home with me that night, and she wrote me letters from Florida after that for afterwards. So
Prove it.
I learned a lesson.
I want to see one of those letters. You have it. Probably one of those DVD cases.
So to your point, I bring it up because, again, and my children's important. So that's number one. If you don't accept my kids, you don't accept me.
As I said, I think it was really great. And for all the single dads out there, or dads that are dating, you've got kids, I think it's a really great message to own that. You're a proud father. To be proud of being a father, of loving your kids. What does that tell a woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where it worked that day, and it didn't even dawn on me at the time, but it worked. It worked there. She was like, "Oh, tell me more about him."
Yeah.
The only thing I would pick on is that it felt that you just wanted to get it out rather than saying that you are proud to be a father. It felt like I have to fucking cross this bridge, because if I don't, some other guy is going to come over and cut my lunch. That was the energy it was coming from. So if you can, reframe that and be like, I'm proud and I own the fact that I'm a loving father to my kids, and slow it down a bit. Like someone isn't coming in to say it, it'll land a lot more powerfully. It'll be a lot more attractive. In that way, rather than how it was delivered.
Okay. Well, and I think you said in the debriefing, and we'll clip this little part. He started it right, where he just mentioned traveling with his children, and then when it got awkward and silent again, he pushed that the children thing all over again. Whereas if he had just kind of left it in the air, that now but now if she doesn't want to talk about it, you move on to something else.
Is that what you thought? I mean, he's the expert, but
oh,
hold on, you're quiet. Sorry, lost your vocal. I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost your vocal. Shoot. And right the moment. Great moment too. I don't know if it's us. We didn't touch
anything.
We didn't touch the machine, but yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Now we can.
That's really strange. I don't know why that happened.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the internet's having some challenges out here.
Weird. Okay, so sorry, but yeah, I saw your lips moving. I'm like, nothing's coming out, and it was a good moment. So.
Oh no. Well, I think the moment I was just saying is it would be hilarious to see, you to actually watch the date yourselves and do your own breakdown. It's hilarious fun. It is great, and you do learn a lot because you're like looking at yourself so intently, like really an experience that most people don't get to do, where you look at yourself and how you're coming across on a date. So
yeah,
right. So the one thing I did take away that I thought of afterwards, and you mentioned in your briefing, is the acknowledging her surroundings, or she had mentioned something and I didn't expand on it, and I guess I could have done better at that, but And I'm trying to think of when I mentioned Belize, and she said, I don't know where that is. Instead of me telling her where it was, I just moved on to other stuff. And I guess I didn't,
Yeah, look, I
in my
think that
brain,
was-
I didn't think I'd,
yeah, it was just it's not a deal breaker. It was just something that I noticed, like you missed that, and it just comes back to active listening, right? When you're really present, you're listening to somebody, you would catch those things, and then that becomes, where you take the conversation. I don't think necessarily that derailed this date. I just wanted to draw the attention to it to say, hey, look, you kind of missed that moment there where that could have created where you went. Instead, it kind of came across like you weren't listening, and you were just like, yep, I'm going down my train of thought, and I'm going to keep powering through. So I don't think that was the worst moment of the date. I think that was just something to draw your awareness to.
So overall, throughout the whole course of the 20-minute date, do you feel I was attentive listening more or less than?
I'd say that you were, in your own way, with the interview questions. You were attentive because you're good at that. That's what you do for a job, right? It's like you were good with that. But if I was looking at it more so from the lens of being present with her and making assumptions that would nurture more of the chemistry, I don't feel like that light was switched on this date. I think it was more stay in the safe zone, ask questions to gather an understanding of this woman, but avoid that room where the kinky things happen. It was like, we're not going into that room. We're not going down that path with this date. And I would have liked to see more of that. That's the main thing.
Oh,
so if you had a second date, I would love to see that happen, right? Where you actually own the fact that you are this sexy, desirable man, and you don't need to qualify, but you just need to own that with her, and then see how that transforms the energy between you and her and the flirting. That's what I'd love to see.
And I want that clip of her telling me that I'm a sexy, desirable man, and that needs to be played over and over and over again.
So you said this wasn't the worst moment. What was his worst moment of the day? wait. I'm getting this question out of the way.
Well, that's a great.
I'm getting this question out of the way first, so that, like she said with the date, you want to end on a positive high note. We're going to leave you feeling good at the end of this and talked about the best thing you did. So let's talk about the worst thing you did.
I have to admit that one of the worst moments was like, I mean, there was a couple, I think.
A couple?
In the first 5 minutes, that one still takes the cake. I know that we reframed it to be a positive, but saying that you hunt women, I think that's got to be up there in the top two worst moments. Is I like to hunt women. I mean, you can put that on a t-shirt, but maybe you have that on t-shirts where you're from, but that was shocking. And it made me laugh. As I said, at first atomic bomb. And then another moment later on, there was a couple where, like I like to touch things. Like when you were, like, to me, I thought that was a pretty just kind of awkward moment. Yeah. Like you saved it, but I like touching, I like to touch things, and it's sort of.
That was and I'm not trying to defend, but that was within that whole we talked about before about that. I like physical, I like to get physical. And so I tried to bring it back by the touching thing. So it wouldn't. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's like you're learning how to talk about intimacy, and I like to touch things. It just changes the way that it came across.
That's why I said it so blatantly like that, but
I would like to touch a woman, I like physical. Be physical.
He had a turkey leg in his hand at the time. Just
but yeah, gosh. And then there's another moment. Gosh. I can't remember. It has to be within the realm of the age card, because you brought that up a couple of times, and I just thought it was the culmination of the first moment, the kid's kind of the older guy, and then there was maybe later on in the day a moment where you just hung on that, and it was super awkward. So I think there's three moments, one early on, one in the middle, and one towards the end, that really made up a beautiful, beautiful piece of artwork to watch play out.
I love
so basically I ruined it through the whole thing. It's beginning, middle, and end. So
I love that you have three moments, and they're not even the moment that I'm thinking of.
I feel, what am I missing? Can you draw my attention?
We don't need to discuss what he's
This
thinking.
makes me so
No, we
happy.
do. I would really appreciate to hear it because I know I'm missing something. I'm trying to be too nice to Dimples. You know, I don't want to destroy his confidence.
Look, I don't want to be like,
Just jump and do it.
This is a moment you brought up in the debriefing, but it is very glaring. There's a moment where he's talking about comedians and going to comedy, and he just stops and goes, "But let's talk about you."
Yes.
I was like, "What? You just stopped mid-sentence and like."
He did. Okay. No, thank you. Like that. Yes. Hopefully we can play that clip. But it was.
Is humor important for you?
Very.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed humor. I've always made light of things, and probably how I get through stuff is humor. Love going to comedians, which are, we plan on. We just got done. So then let me ask you a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then I'll get into a little bit about me.
It was so random. You're like going down merrily talking, and then boom, you just hooked out of that. Like, no, you said something like, "Oh, but we'll come back to that. Tell me about you, and then we'll circle back to me," or something. It was like the most random and abrupt change of topic.
So I didn't nail it there. I didn't save the moment, is what you're saying, both of you.
No, actually, your date did. Your date saved that moment. That's when she brought up the DVDs. So
she did. That's right. She derailed it and brought it back to life.
Believe me, Sarah.
I think she was very supportive throughout that date.
I practically have this entire
date
date memorized.
Yeah, you've done a really great job.
I watched it a lot.
I got texts throughout the day. This video gives me so much joy. I'm sitting at work and I'm in a meeting and I get this. I'm like,
I did send her the same message.
I saw that.
I like the way you spoke about work. You covered a lot in that time. You really did. It was quite awesome. But yeah, there's some of the top worst moments. Well, that's maybe in the best moments then. There's certain things that really shone through your personality that I thought, you're a catch, Dimples.
Hell yeah. There's another clip.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got to stop talking right when she's done.
So let's yep, you're right. We got to end on a positive note. So back in what's my one thing that I could improve the most?
There you go.
One thing you can improve the most, I believe I talk about this at the end. I do really feel that you're avoiding this intimate territory with flirting. So I would say that space, like leading into that area, is where you could do the most improvement. And so what that looks like is leaning into those awkward silences that we experienced and not avoiding that or not feeling, uncomfortable having to bring in these different topics. And then the second part to that is making the actual date more collaborative and bringing it into the present here and now. So like I said, let's go surfing, like actually create experience with your date. I think if you do more of that, then that's going to transform the result and the whole connection over the date, rather than being reliant on asking these questions about past experiences or external things or small talk questions. That would be really cool to see you do. I honestly think that would transform your whole experience.
Okay. And I think, and I'm just not, I'm thinking on the first date, every time I got too deep into the flirting, I'm like, well, this is the first date. You don't want to go too flirty. And maybe
I don't think we saw any
read it wrong.
Deep flirting. There was some compliments exchanged, but I wouldn't say that there was flirting exchanged.
That's what I mean. I kept kind of, if I felt I was going to go too far, I just.
Whereas we want to see that, like, even if, so this is the great thing about training. If you went too far, it's fine, because you know that this is a safe place to do that. Then we would refine it and bring it back. But we first need to go to that territory that you feel is too far to bring you back to what's that sweet spot is. So yeah, from a coaching or training perspective, you actually want to over or go there, and we'll bring you back where that juicy moment is.
To be fair though, he's a little different than your normal clients, because it wasn't a safe space for him because where were we?
We were worth great
It was
points.
not a safe place for Dimples on that virtual date at all.
It was not. Yeah, your other clients they don't have to have their best friend in the world watch the thing and with knowing that they're going to get. So I told him I was not going to come on here and give him any kudos whatsoever, because that's not really my job. But he did well given the situation. There's a struggle with technology in the Zoom and the awkward pauses that Zoom gives you. There's the language, and not language, but accent barrier.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought he did a pretty damn good job.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
Especially when the camera pops on and Phoebe is gorgeous. I mean, that's intimidating right off the bat. Like, so when I popped the video, I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Good luck, buddy. You're on your own."
I wanted to throw him in the deep end, and she is so stunning, and I wanted to see how he handled it. So yeah, there was some layers of pressure that we added to this whole experience.
So let's get to the best moments. What was his highlight moment? What's the best thing he did on this date?
I feel that he led the whole date. It was definitely him in the driver's seat. Where he drove that car, maybe a little questionable. I think it stayed on the highway a little too much. Like, he could have gone off-road and gone the scenic route, or just diversified the experience. But I liked that he was in the driver's seat the whole way through. That was a really impressive part to how he played the date.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll continue with that then.
But the highlight for me was
the beach.
Definitely the question about the beach was the highlight, standout moment for me. I thought my friend has never looked smarter.
The both of you, when I said that, it was like just a normal question, because in my head it was like, yeah, there's so many options. For some reason I was thinking surfing at the time, and I thought it could be a subject. So it was a great question in my brain.
You brought us a lot of joy, so we are very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
If
nothing else, I'm happy I brought that to both of you.
Before we go, I do want to say a big thanks to my partner in crime here, because it takes a lot of courage to go and do it, knowing that this is coming. And I don't know that I would have been able to do it if I were in your situation. So all the kudos to you.
Well,
and I'm excited to see where everything goes from here.
There you go.
So am I. I think it's only upwards from here. I think it's a great starting point. And yeah, you did really well. So if anyone else in your community is up for the challenge, I think we can offer them a similar experience if they want to go through.
Yeah, tell them where to find you and where they can get some of this good coaching. And we are going to have you back eventually for a follow-up on where this boy is with dating. So.
Well, yeah, I do. I'm being serious about the photos. I think this can be a real amazing makeover of before and afters. So as I said in the last episode, you can find me on Instagram at Dating with Sarah Official. Otherwise, you can email me direct as well. That's on my Instagram, Sarah at sarahjeavons.com. Alternatively, go through these guys, because, they've just gone through the experience. You can ask Dimples himself what it was like and whether he would do it again. So it's, great testimony, or you might go, never do it. It was terrifying. But I really would like to offer something to your community. If there's guys that want to improve their communication, they want to have more fun in their dating life, send them my way, and I'll give them a special discount as well for being a part of your community. So
awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that. So the bottom line is, no, I'm super happy I went through it. You couldn't have been a better host with our first, talk through and debriefing right now. I appreciate everything you said, and you laid out in a nice way. So I'm glad I went through it, and I encourage anyone to go through it, because I took a lot of notes. To your point, take notes as I'm watching my own date. I've got 3 pages of notes, high notes, low notes. I got improvement to do.
Now it's time to get him signed up for a dating app.
Yes. I'm enjoying the journey. This is actually really exciting.
It's awesome.
You can follow along at home, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm I'm excited too. So that's that part. I'm excited too. It's a new journey in my life. So here we go. And I appreciate you both being along.
One of the other services that I'd like to see you do is text game, sexting, flirting through text. I'd like to see how you go, because the dating apps, that's a very important part of the whole experience, how you build anticipation through your messaging, which is a whole nother skill set. But
Careful, Sarah. You might want to hire somebody to read these things. You might not be ready for this.
Oh,
I'll strap myself in. I'm ready.
I'm not new to the sexting world, but they're not the girlfriends sexting. It's the acquaintance and sexting. And okay,
you've said enough tonight. Exactly. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. The tavern is closed for now, but we'd love to have you back for more fun next time. Seriously though, get your asses out of here.